Good afternoon, this is Megan Singh, and I am excited to share with you today my course reflection video for EDAC 634. Much of what I learned in this course was a reinforcement of previous ideas that I had learned in other courses and from other experiences. For example, I learned that the same lesson can be done effectively with many different approaches. My first two assignments were both on the same topic of health literacy, specifically with primary care physicians, ER, and urgent care visits. And I learned that I could do the same lesson with completely different approaches, and it could still be effective depending on the lesson. And with that, sometimes you will have multiple theories that coexist within the same lesson. I also understood and recognized my disconnect with embodied learning, which I explored during one of our major assignments this semester. That was important to me because now I see embodied learning everywhere I go, and it was not a theory that I had previously recognized. Lastly, this course was a reminder that learning is not random, so teaching should not be either. We need to be considerate and intentional when we are looking at our audience and their needs and designing our lesson plans. This is obviously something we all know as teachers, but it was a great reinforcement in this class. There are several things that I really enjoyed about this course. First, I thought that the structure was very clear, with due dates outlined both in the syllabus and on Canvas. And especially having due dates for both the original post date and our comments was incredibly helpful. I also enjoyed our textbook for this semester and loved that we had weekly supplemental readings that were optional, but were able to support learning. It was also nice to have course projects with reasonable expectations, especially when we were able to choose between doing a project or doing a summary. I always chose to do the projects because they helped me learn better, but I thought it was great for those who prefer to do more reading with summaries attached. Lastly, I felt that the pacing of the course was comfortable, and I love that our classes with Professor Chang usually end a little bit early so that we can focus on other work as we need to. I have two recommendations for ways that the course could potentially be improved. First, I love using multimedia in my own projects, and this is largely because of courses I have taken with Professor Chang, in which I have become more comfortable with using Canva. However, I don't think that the use of multimedia should play such a major part of the grade. So, for example, in this project, it takes about 30% of our grade just to have a multimedia and visually appealing project. Next, I believe that it would be great to consider opening project weeks to include the topics covered in other modules. For example, in the weeks that we can do a project, it would be nice to be able to also cover critical theory and indigenous perspectives, which I consider to be one of the most valuable components of the course. I have a few pieces of advice to future students. First, I would say to take advantage of Canva Pro. With our university emails, we all have access to all of the pro features on Canva, which are pretty exceptional. That is how I make all of my projects and videos. Next, I would say to enjoy having choices in assignments and readings. It can seem overwhelming at first that we have the ability to choose a wide range of projects and applications and readings to utilize in this class. However, it is an excellent way to be in control of your learning for sometimes the first time fully in your life. And then last, I would say to check out the provided list of previous students' work, especially if you are nervous with the new concept of having choice in assignment. Having students' previous work helps you understand what Professor Chang's expectations are.